Welcome back to another episode. Today we are going to work on our health status for our player. We're going to add some health to our player so that when we collide with one of our enemies, in this case I think we've only done a spider, we're actually going to go and reduce the player's health by a little bit, because eventually we're going to have to kill the player at some point, so these enemies will help us kill the player to make the game a little bit harder. So we're going to jump into that and start working on that, and then we might actually hop in and add some more coins into the scene, maybe just to, I don't know, we won't do that because we'll start working on like a proper level in probably the next episode. But let's go in and start working on our players' health. So before we do that, we need to do a few things. So first of all, let's create another folder called prefabs. Now we're going to drag our prefab, or some of our characters, into our prefabs folder here, because for example, if we are working in designing new levels and we want to reuse like a spider, we don't want to go and set it up all again. So we've got our spider set up, and I did change something. So I took the is triggered off because I was testing something and it didn't work. So let's go ahead and put that back. But other than that, it should be the same as yours if you've been following along. So now let's go and drag our spider in here. So now we can use that in other scenes or other levels if we want to. Another one is going to be our player. Let's go move our player into there. What else do we need to do? We'll move in our coin as well, because we can use that coin again. And then that should be it. So point A and point B we can leave. A grid we can leave. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So let's go. And what did I say we're going to work on? We are going to work on our health system. So just like in our canvas, where's our canvas? Just like we added a coin indicator here for our coins, we're going to add this similar one, but that's going to be a health indicator. So let's just change the name to health, and then instead of coins, it's going to say health is going to be equal to, we'll start it off at 50 for now. Later on we will make it so that it's actually a so that it's actually a health bar, so that we've got some kind of UI element that you can actually see the bar shrinking down as you collide with more enemies and do things you're not really supposed to do. So we'll work on that probably in a separate video. We'll just dedicate an entire video for building out a custom health bar, but for now let's go and get this to work. So we've got our coins, and every time we pick up a coin we go and add one to our coins. Technically, well, basically we're just incrementing our coin count by 1. And when we're going to do the same thing but the opposite for our health. Instead of incrementing it, we're going to decrease it by, not by 1, probably by more, because we don't really want to give the player 50 health chances, or technically health lives. So to do that, let's go to our player. Now I might just do this in our global class here. So we've got our coin count. Let's go and duplicate that and change this to health. Just health. And then we'll leave that, we'll set that to equal to 50, because that's how we want it, and that's how we set it up in our canvas. So now let's go and duplicate this. So in our UI manager we need another coin indicator for our health. So let's go and change this to health indicator, and then we can just copy and paste what's in the update method, and instead of coin indicator it's going to say health indicator dot text is going to be equal to health, and then this is just going to be health, like that. So when we go and play the game now, we should see, just to actually see that this is working, I'm going to get rid of the 50, just like that. And I'm also going to do the same for the coins, get rid of the 0, although I don't know why I'm doing that, because we know that the coins work, because we can go and pick up a coin and it actually increments it. So that's not working. So let's go and fix that. So on our canvas, we're going to need to drag in not our canvas, our UI manager. We're going to need to drag in our health indicator into our UI manager script, so that actually picks it up. And now let's go and See if it works. So coins 0 and health is 50. Perfect. So that's working. Now when we play the game and we go and collide, let's just make sure our collision is working with our enemy. So coins is working. And then when we go and collide with our enemy here, we can see we have this message saying player. So instead of printing this player message out, we are going to want to do something with our health status. So where is this? This is in our spider class. Now, do we want to do this in our spider class or in our... I'm going to do this in our player class, and I'll tell you now why. So in our player class, let's create an on collision enter. On collision, or is it going to be... Let's try this. Let's go and say on collision enter 2D. And then first of all, on our enemy, which is our spider, let's go and add a tag onto it. So the reason I'm doing that, well, going to try and do it this way is because... Let's just add this tag. So let's go and add a enemy tag onto that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a tag onto our enemy called enemy, and this enemy tag should be attached to all of our enemies. So later on we'll create other enemies. For example, create, as we've got now, a spider. Then we'll create, maybe, I think there's like a boar or something, whatever it's called. And then there are things like skeletons and all of those things, enemies here. So we've got a boar, a bee, a bat. So we've got all of these things. So if we make some more of those, we can go and add in a enemy tag to it. And then whenever we are colliding with an enemy, we can just go and reduce the health. But now that I'm saying that, I did want to change the amount that it reduces by depending on which enemy you collide with. So we might not be able to do this, but let's go and test it out to see if it works. If not, we'll just add it into our enemy script, so our spider. But let's go and test it out for our player and see if that works. So on our player class, let's go and say if the collision dot game object dot compare tag is going to be global dot enemy tag. So we don't have that yet, so, but we'll go and create it now. So if it's enemy tag, then we want to go and say global dot health is going to be minus equals, for now we'll start with 10 just so it doesn't take a long time to die. So let's go and create this enemy tag in here. So we'll copy this and change this to enemy tag. And then we also need to change that to be enemy, so that should be fine. Now, because we've done that, we should be able to collide with our, hopefully, our spider, and then we should see it reflect in over there. Okay, so that doesn't work. Now, I think that is because one of them, our spider, is set to a trigger. I'm just going to print in here, print out the, what is it called? It's going to be called game object dot name, or rather it's going to be collision dot game object dot name. So that should print out what we're colliding with. Now, when I press play, we should see the tile map. So that's exactly what I was expecting. Then we should see, okay, tile map, tile map, tile map. I don't know why it didn't work for our coin. It's probably because we don't have a, no, we do have a collider on there, but let's go and see. Do we get one when we collide with our spider? No. Okay, so we don't get one. Now, let's go and see if that's because our spider is trigger. So I'm going to delete that or untick that and see if this works. So now it does work. Okay, so that's the problem. So as soon as our spider is a trigger, then we can't collide with it. So let's go and get rid of this. We'll come back to that and fix that later. But for now, just because we've only got our spider as our enemy, we can go and do it in our spider script. So where is our on trigger? So here's our on trigger. Now we can go and say if we only really want to reduce the health when the spider is colliding with our player. So we can go and say if the collision, the same thing, collision.gameObject.compare tag, and this time instead of our enemy it's going to be our player. So let's go and say global, spell that correctly, global.player tag. It's not coming up because we don't have it, so player tag. So that's fine. And then same thing, all we want to do is we want to go and say global dot health is going to be minus equals 10. So that just means that whatever the health is currently, just go minus 10 from it. So let's go and set this up. So we'll copy that. We'll leave that there for now because we probably will use that later on. So let's go and say player tag, and then let's just copy that and paste that in there, get rid of the tag. So that should be fine. Now we need to go and add that player tag onto our player. So we should have that already, so that's fine. So let's go and test it out and see. Hopefully this works. So we no longer get that message printing out saying whatever we have collided with, but we should get that working. So you can see it's still working. We can still collide. We'll technically trigger our spider, but you can see every time our spider walks through us, we get health reduced. So now our health is currently set to 20. And then it's 10, and then it's 0, and then if I go through it, it's just going to go to minus, but we don't really want it to go under 0, so let's go and deal with that. Okay, so let's go and say public static int, copy that and paste that, and here we're going to say min health is going to be equal to 0. And then where are we going to do this? In our spider. Actually, do we want to do this in our player? Let's do that. Yeah, let's do this in our player for now. So let's go on our player. Let's go and make another method called public void die, just like that. And then what are we going to do in here? Here we're just going to say we're not going to kill the player for now. So for now, let's just go and say print player health equals 0. And that should be fine. Now we need to call that from our spider class. So let's do this. So what am I looking for? I think there's an easier way we can do this. Let me just bring it up quickly. What am I looking for? Did we do it in this game? I can't remember how I did this. No, not in that one. Bear with me. So in our spider class, when we go and collide with our player, we can then go and reduce the health, and then we can go and call the die method if our health is below our minimum health. So let's go and do that. So in another if statement, we can in here, let's go and say if the, what is it going to be? It's going to be the, I've gone blank now. If the global dot health is less than or equal to the global dot minimum health, then we need to go and say, let's bring up our player here. So let's go and say public static player, then it's going to be an instance. So let's go and see. We've got our player class. Let's save that. And then I believe in our player class, we need to go and say, oh, not our player class, sorry, our spider class. Over here, we need to go and say get and then private set, I believe, like that. So we should be able to, in here, go and say player dot die, or do we need to make that static? Where was it? Public void, public static void die. So let's go and see if that works. Public player dot should just be die. There we go. And then hopefully that works. So now we should be able to play the game and see if we get that message popping up. So if we do, then that should deal with eventually killing out our player when the health has gone below 0. So at the moment, like I said, we're not going to destroy our player because we have no way to put our player and we have no way to reset our player. So this is just for testing purposes. So if we do that, so we can see player health is equal to 0, so that's perfect. And then obviously it's still sending the health down, so it's still decreasing 10 from it. So let's go and fix that. So in our player class, okay, so that's fine. That's exactly what we wanted. So let's go back to our spider class and fix this. We don't want to decrease our health. So we can go in here and say, at the moment we've got it saying if we collide with our player, then let's go and decrease our health. Now let's go and say if, or first of all in our global class, let's go and bring in a Boolean variable. So let's go and say public static Boolean, and this is going to be is alive, like that. And that's going to be set to true by default because when we start the game, the player is obviously going to be alive. So we'll set that equal to true, and then in our spider class here we can go and say if we collide with the player and actually I'm going to put this in, let's go and get rid of that. I'm going to put that in our player class. Save that, put this up here. So here let's go and say public, what is it going to be? It's going to be public, no, what is it? Boolean, but public bool is alive. Set that equal to true. And then let's go and see. So we'll save that, and then in our spider class here we can go and say player dot is alive. That doesn't work, so I believe we need to make that static. Did I not make it static? Public static. So back here, let's try that again. Player dot is alive. So if our player is alive, then we can go and do all of this. Now we need to go and tell our player to die when our player is not alive. So when we have reached our minimum health, when we call our player die, instead of printing out this, we can go and say is alive is going to be equal to false. And then we should now be able to play the game, but when our player has, just for testing purposes quickly, I'm just going to increase this. Where is it? Where are we decreasing? Let's just decrease that by 25 so that we can run through the spider twice only instead of 5 times. So now when we go and collide with our spider, we should be able to collide multiple times, but our increment of our health indicator on the screen should only go down twice. It should go down to 25, and then it should go down to 0, and then it should not go down anymore. So that's perfect. That's fine. Now that we know our player is dead, but we can still move it obviously because we haven't really sorted that out yet, but that's working. Now the next step for that is to get, well, not really the next step. Once we've got our death working properly, so that we actually go and kill the player and restart the game. Actually, no, we'll do this before. What we'll do is probably in the next episode, we will actually work on a health indicator bar. So instead of just having a health indicator like this, just text on the screen, let's go and make a health bar. So I'll make that in probably in Photoshop later on. Actually, I don't know if we have one in the game already. Let's have a look and see. So sprites, let's just type in health. No. Okay, so we have the health potion, but okay, so I'll probably make that in later on probably, and then we can go and try and implement that. But yeah, that is going to be it for today's episode. So if you enjoyed these videos, please go ahead and press this button over here to subscribe to the channel, and also watch these videos, or the previous video if you missed that one, which is over here somewhere. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. So thanks for watching, and goodbye.